It looked like good blood. It didn't look like there was any bad blood. Like before the game started, Tessa gave MiLaysia, a pat on the hip. They smiled at each other. They all shook hands after. It wasn't too friendly, but it didn't look like,
Well, they're also all competitors, right?
Yeah.
Like the South Carolina team, one thing we know about them is they don't like to lose.
Right.
So can't blame them there. Hey everyone, welcome back into another episode of South Carolina Sideline. Claire Foley joined alongside Jared Parker for another episode. As always, these episodes drop every Tuesday and we don't want you to miss out. You can watch them on YouTube and you can also listen along wherever you find your podcast. Spotify, Apple, Amazon, you name it, we are there. All right, we're going to kick it off with some news that's breaking to us as we record on this Monday afternoon. Just a few minutes ago, we learned that the Indiana Fever have waived Bree Hall. Now, Jared, you were watching some of their games over the weekend, their preseason games. Does this come as a shock to you?
It's not a shock. I think Bree played very well. I liked what I saw from her. I mean, she dropped 9 points, 4 rebounds on 4 of 9 shooting yesterday. That's a good game. That's solid shooting, especially adding the 3-pointers in there. It's not bad. But the Indiana Fever are just so deep at the guard position. I mean, obviously, you've got Caitlin Clark, you've got Kelsey, you've got Sid Colson, you've got Lexi Hull, Sophie. I mean, those are all vets. And then you add Clark. That's already 5 guards that pretty much have a guaranteed spot on the team. If you move Bree into that wing position, maybe she can adjust, but I just think it was a case of a really talented player on a team that's just so stacked, and they kind of have these obligations to all these players. So I'm not surprised Bree got cut, but it was nice seeing her go out there and ball. And this doesn't mean it's over, because while the Fever might be stacked at guard positions, there's other teams out there who may need a guard to come in and be on the roster.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of a case of she went from one team that was so stacked with depth to another.
Right.
Obviously, you have the Aaliyah Boston, the Caitlin Clark, a lot of stars on that team. And so for a rookie to try to come in, that's really tough.
Yeah.
I know it's still early in terms of preseason and things like that. Do you have any maybe ideas of where she could fall if she were to get picked up by another team, where you would like to see her maybe?
I mean, I think right now the Washington Mystics, they've just gone through a couple rounds of waiving some players. Georgia Amore, she's out injured. So I think they're a team there. You're definitely not going to as good of a situation if she were to land there. They're probably not going to have a very good year this year. But I think that's a case where, who knows, there might be a spot for her. And I think, that 11th, 12th spot on the roster, she can absolutely win it there. So I think if she is to land in the WNBA this year, I'd love to see her go and fight for a roster spot there.
And for a rookie, it's really important just to get minutes, just to get the reps of being there.
Wherever you go.
Yeah, exactly. And someone else who is in search of some minutes, MiLaysia Fulwiley. We saw her come up this weekend. We'll get to her in just a few minutes. But before that, some members of the current South Carolina Gamecocks team were out west competing in the 3X Nationals tournament. Chloe Kitts, Tessa Johnson, Maddie McDaniel, and Joyce Edwards were all there. So, Jared, before we get into the MiLaysia story, talk about what you saw from those 4 in the 3X tournament.
Well, I think it was a great experience for them just to go out there and get some basketball experience. It's more free because there are no coaches. You're coaching yourself. So everyone had that green light. Let it fly. What are you going to do? Get subbed out by the one person waiting on you? So I loved watching Maddie kind of, when she was in there at point, take command, be that point guard that the fans want to see, because they had a really good weekend. They went undefeated in pool play. They won their quarterfinals matchup, and their first 4 games really weren't close. They were in control for the whole time. I loved watching Joyce Edwards shoot the 3. It's 2 and 3v3, but what's going to be the 3 ball, because I think that should be the natural evolution for her game on offense, is expanding past the arc, and she was drilling them. Like, she looked good from 3. I don't want to make any predictions for next year, but we could see her letting them fly next year.
And I think the no coaching element is something that's really interesting to this, especially when it comes to this South Carolina team. I mean, they lost a good amount of senior leadership in Bree Hall, Sanaya Fagan, that kind of thing. So what do you think it did for, whether you look at Chloe specifically to step up in that leadership, but also to get younger players like Joyce Edwards, Maddie McDaniel, and even Tessa Johnson just finishing up her sophomore year, get them involved in that as well?
I mean, specifically when you mentioned that, Chloe's the first person I thought of when it comes to that, because she's going into her senior year, you know, she'll be one of the more experienced players on the team. And I think that no coaching aspect, it provides a moment where, well, someone has to lead. Just because the coach isn't there doesn't mean coaching is out the window and that feedback is out the window. So watching, and it wasn't just her, really watching everyone voice their opinions. Like they were all very vocal watching their huddles, but especially watching Chloe do that. I think this has probably been some great experience for her heading into her senior year to go to Arizona. There's no one there to fall on. It's just you. You have to figure it out by yourself. And I think
big sister kind of moment.
Big sister kind of. She is a big sister. And I think she's going to bring that back next year. And we may see a more vocal Chloe next year. Who knows?
We'll have to see. But obviously this weekend led up to this South Carolina team taking on LSU's team, which included MiLaysia Fulwiley. So talk to me about what you saw in that.
Well, first of all, I mean, who expected them to meet again?
I know.
So soon?
We all expected, okay, got to wait until next season. Nope. How about 2 weeks later, a week and a half later?
Because we knew earlier in the week they were going out to Arizona, but then once the pools got released, I looked and I saw, and I'm like the right things happen. They're going to meet, and all the right things happen, and they met. I mean, a player like MiLaysia Fulwiley, immense talent. Her handles are crazy. She can shoot from anywhere. I think we knew in a 3v3 setting she was going to ball out. I thought South Carolina looked like the better team heading into that, but MiLaysia took over. She
opens up the floor when it's just 3v3.
Right. She can do literally anything. And that's what we saw. It looked like good blood. It didn't look like there was any bad blood. Like before the game started, Tessa gave MiLaysia, a pat on the hip. They smiled at each other. They all shook hands after. It wasn't too friendly, but it didn't look like,
Well, they're also all competitors, right?
Yeah.
Like the South Carolina team, one thing we know about them is they don't like to lose.
Right.
So can't blame them there. And it is like we talked about last week, maybe the sort of rivalry that started to build between a South Carolina and an LSU. But at the end of the day, the people in that quote unquote rivalry, they're all friends.
Right.
I mean, when MiLaysia announced her decision, her teammates in the Gamecocks, they were in her comment section and things like that. I don't think there's any animosity or anything there. They're like, go get your minutes, go get your bag, maybe. So.
And that's for sure what it looked like. I think once I saw that tap, because I was wondering how the energy would be, but once I saw Tessa tap MiLaysia on the hip, I'm like, okay, they're still cool. Now they did go at it on the court, which is everything I think everyone wanted. Like MiLaysia blocked Joyce blocked her. They were going at each other like they did not know each other, but I loved watching that they were still cool, but still fierce competitors.
And obviously it's going to be a different situation when these teams meet during the actual regular season. But I think we talked about when MiLaysia entered the portal, we're all still going to be rooting for her.
Of course.
So for her sake, I do kind of like that she got this one out of the way. She got to play against them. Just a little taste of it. Obviously, there's not the stakes of a regular season or the environment of an LSU home game or playing at the CLA when eventually she does come back here. But just dip her toes in the water a little bit, get that out of the way, okay.
Because the fans will make a difference when that does come.
They definitely will. They definitely will. And even if for the game that's down in Louisiana, we know how well this Gamecock fan base travels. So
that's true.
We'll have to see. It's going to be interesting, to say the least. But we got some time before that. We're still in the off season for women's basketball, but some of our other Gamecock sports, they're in the thick of it. It's tournament time. So when we come back, we're going to talk about the teams at South Carolina that are heading into tournament play.
It's time. Welcome back to South Carolina Sideline. As we mentioned earlier, it's tournament time. The Gamecocks have got some teams in the tournament. We'll start with softball. They're heading in 7 seed. They'll play the winner of Alabama and Auburn. Claire, what are you looking at? I mean, with their potential matchups there, both teams they're familiar with.
Well, obviously, the South Carolina team has been so successful this season. Not that they've struggled in conference play, but it's been pretty evenly matched because of how good the SEC is. So they won the Alabama series this weekend, which was definitely really important, and especially because that could be their next opponent in the tournament play. But got to give a shout out to head coach Ashley Chastain Woodard. 39 wins this season.
Yeah.
That sets a program record for most wins by a head coach in their first season. So shout out to everything she's done with this South Carolina program. So exciting for her and for this team. And it'll be fun to see them in Georgia, Athens. That's where they're going. Had to think of it for a second. Head down to Athens to play in the first round of the SEC tournament, and that starts on Wednesday.
Now, tournament play, it's a little bit different from the regular season. Obviously, you've got your 3-game series in the SEC during the regular season. This is a bit different. It's one and done. And South Carolina, for as good as they have been, they've also shown that sometimes that first game of the series, they can be slow starters. Are you concerned at all that that could potentially bite them?
I think one thing that we've also seen from this team is that when they do need to bring it, they can, whether it's they're down in a game or down in a series. They seem to really know how to rally back, and they have different strategies to rallying back too. Like, it's not just depending on their pitching. It's not just depending on their power hitting. It's really as a whole team. So I think that they will be very conscious of hey, we got to get out there right away and play all 3 phases. We have to have solid pitching. We have to have the power hitting. We have to have the defense behind that. And I think they'll be aware of that and know that we might not have a tomorrow.
Yeah.
There might not be another game after this. So I think they'll be really locked in for that. And because it has been such a historic season for their coach, I think that's going to play into it too. You have a lot of seniors and 5th and 6th years even on this team. So I think all of that will just culminate into an energy that they're hopefully ready to bring.
Now, I know looking at the regular season, it looks like they're pretty much safe with hosting a regional, even if they do lose. But obviously, winning in that first round would, or their first game would be the second round, would help a lot to handle that. Looking a little bit ahead, not getting too ahead of ourselves, but looking a little bit ahead, they would have Texas A&M on the other side of that Alabama/Auburn game. What do you think about Texas A&M? They're the 2 seed, but I feel like they can be beatable, right?
I mean, you look back to South Carolina in their first SEC series of the year, taking on the number 1 team, and they kept it all 3. They lost the series. They got swept inevitably, but they were all 1-run games. They've shown that they can compete, and all year long, they've been within that top 10, top 15. They're right there with the best teams in the country, and especially in a sport like softball or baseball, it can really be anyone's game at any time. Obviously, you take the longevity of it. That's when you see usually like the better team comes out on top the farther you go. But in places like an SEC tournament, when it is a single game elimination, it can be anybody's time. Yeah. So I think because of how well-rounded this team is, I think that they can compete with anybody.
Especially a game like softball. Like you said, the possibilities are endless with the things that can happen. Now, moving on from that, a little less variance in these next sports that the Gamecocks are competing in this weekend. Women's golf, they're competing in the first round of the NCAA tournament. They're up in Virginia, got the number 1 seed for that group of teams. I mean, what's the energy like for them, you think, going into this tournament? Never won one before, but they look like they have a chance this year.
I feel like they're such an underrated program for South Carolina. I mean, this is 5 straight years that they have been the number 1 seed. Mm-hmm. Like, that's crazy. Their head coach, 5 SEC Coach of the Years, including back-to-back years this year. 3 of them were on SEC first team. 1 was co-freshman of the year. 2 more on the second team. Like, this is a fantastic program that is right here in Columbia, South Carolina. And I think because it's a sport like women's golf, people don't get as excited about it as women's basketball, football, baseball, softball, that kind of thing. But they have just become such a program of success that they are able to do things like that. Like, it's one thing to be successful 1 year, 2 year, but to create longevity and sustained success is something entirely different. So excited to see them. That tournament, the first round starts Monday in Charlottesville, Virginia. So I'm excited for them.
I'm excited too, especially after watching that game SEC clinching.
Yes.
Put by Ridquist. That was just a thing of beauty to watch, a beautiful putt, and then the celebration after that.
Yeah.
I watched that clip like 20 times. I couldn't get enough of just watching the elation of them complete a goal, and they know they can keep going on and complete more goals.
Absolutely. And I talked before when it came to softball about how much it means to the seniors. But Louise Ridquist, she's a senior herself. But you also have Hannah Darling. Both of them were on the SEC All-First team. Hannah Darling, she's at a program record because she has been on the first team 4 years in a row. Like that's what I mean about that's what I mean about how well-rounded and successful and the longevity of success that this program has that does not get the recognition it deserves. So excited to see them go on hopefully another run in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah. Now, another unsung hero, it seems like. Obviously, women's golf getting started today. Men's tennis, they're already underway, and they're winning. They just beat Florida State. They're on to Stanford now. Stanford is a beast of a program. 17 national titles in their history. Haven't won since 2000.
I think ranked number 5.
Yeah, 5-4. They're a beast of a program. I mean, that's going to be a challenge. From what you've seen from the Gamecocks lately, just SEC tournament, NCAA play, how do you like their chances against a program like Stanford?
I think what's special about them is their ability to battle and stay in it. We've seen a couple matches over the weekend in the first 2 rounds where they went down to start and they stuck in it. Like that's one of those sports that's just like so tough on the body and can be mentally kind of frustrating, I think, a mental challenge. And so to physically be able to stay in it and mentally be able to stay in it, I think is a huge part of it. And you have to remember too, like, these are outside matches. Like, it was 90 degrees the other day. It was really hot. And honestly, I think that came into a factor in the second round against Florida State because it came down to the final match and it was really close. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but Florida State's guy got like a full body cramp and he had to take his allotted 5 minutes and then still wasn't feeling 100%, but because you commit so much to it and because you're in that moment, he's like, I'm not just going to give up. So he tries, and good for him for not giving up, getting back out there, but he was just not physically able to overcome that cramp or whatever injury he was dealing with, and it went South Carolina's way. And I hate that for Florida State, but South Carolina has to take it as, okay, we did what we had to do. Now we move on. It's not going to get any easier from here. And they also have some great leaders on that team. You look at Connor Thompson, who won, I believe, every match he was in over the weekend. And he's a guy that I got to talk to earlier this year as the season was starting. He's overcome a lot of injuries, and that's a guy who would do anything for his team. So love it for him that they're continuing on this run. I think it's 5 straight super regional appearances for them too. So 5 must be the lucky number for our Gamecocks this year.
And like you said, they're gonna fight. Like they had to fight against Florida State. They're gonna fight against Stanford, no matter how it goes. I think if they win, who knows? National championship might be in the future. That might be getting knock on wood. We're getting a little ahead of ourselves here. But what does it say for Jeremiah Donati though? You think? He has had no break with as far as tournament goes.
Yeah.
What do you think?
He walked into a good program. I mean, you had women's basketball, obviously, win the SEC championship. Golf win the SEC championship. Equestrian win the SEC championship. All these teams in the tournament now being competitive, being ranked. It came into a good situation. Obviously, baseball is not where they would like to be at this point, but I think that will come with time. Beach volleyball today also announced that their head coach, Moritz, he will not be returning for next year. Women's volleyball in the fall sport has a new head coach, though. She seems really excited, really aggressive in terms of recruiting and getting on top of these things, building the program right from the jump. So I think overall, South Carolina athletics is in a really good spot. And I think A.D. Donati came in at a good time, but I'm also excited to see the moves he does make because he has one hire in volleyball, one coming presumably in beach volleyball. So excited to see where the school continues to grow from here.
I think it's definitely a great spot to be in where you have to make a few hires, but you're not in a spot where you're having to retool the whole athletic department. You have a bunch of SEC champions, and you can just make a quick hire or two here to clean up some of the other spots of the program. So we're going to take a quick break on sports. What are we on?
South Carolina Sideline, not Sports Zone.
On Sideline, South Carolina Sideline. But when we get back, we'll share our final thoughts.
All right, welcome back into South Carolina Sideline. Before we go, got to give a shout out to Dawn Staley. Her birthday was yesterday, so shout out Coach Staley. Happy birthday from us to you.
Statue for the birthday.
Yeah.
Coming close in time. That's not a bad birthday present.
I didn't get a statue for my birthday week this year.
Next time.
Might have to do something about
next
that.
time. We got you next time. Clear the roads.
Well, thanks so much for joining us this week. Again, episodes drop every Tuesday. You can watch them on YouTube at SC Sideline. You can find clips of these episodes on our Twitters at Claire Foley TV, at Jared Parker TV. We also have an Instagram at SC Sideline. And of course, you can listen wherever you find your podcast, Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, you name it, we are there. Thanks so much for joining us for another week. Hope to see you again next week.